Only four Oklahoma Sooners made On3's top 100 players lists. David Stone at number 20, no argument there. Kip Lewis, Taylor Wein, and Isaiah Sategna, all worthy. But if you're telling me this Oklahoma team only has four of the top 100 players in college football, then we've got a problem. Or do we? We'll talk about that. And we got to head south where Steve Sarkisian and his Texas backups could run through Texas Tech's schedule. Tech fired back with a challenge. Schedule us. So should Texas actually take the game? Or does Sark write a check he has no reason to cash? Let's talk about it. Good evening, and welcome back to Sooner Intel. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, along with my co-host, Mr. Mason, Chris Mason from Sooners 360. Kchris will be along shortly. And if you love college football, especially your Oklahoma Sooners, then you know you're in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button on all three channels, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you don't miss a moment of Sooner Intel. Mr. Mason, good to see you again, man. It's been a couple of weeks since we got together.
Yeah. So it's been a little quiet OU football wise, but recruiting's heating up. It's a big weekend for OU recruiting, and the daily recruiting show I've been doing has been getting good feedback, and that's been a success so far. The subscriber base. Partly that I've gotten through your show and through the Hall of Fame seems to really like it. So as long as I can find good content, I'll keep doing it.
Hey man, it's a good show. It's been doing well and stuff. Yeah, I kind of started a new one on live. It wasn't really helping me as much to not go live, and a lot of my audience was like, "Nah, this is not what we want." So
well, you tried it, right? So you tried it, and
it
didn't work.
Yeah,
so
listen.
That's the whole point, right?
Kind of, yeah. That was the whole kind of point. So excited to have that new one the top 12 plus. I hope everybody got a chance to check that out from the other day. We'll get more of that coming here in the next couple weeks, and these guys can come on it anytime they want to as well. We'll be talking to Really Flawed about Texas this next Wednesday for sure, and obviously getting into some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight with Texas Tech and Texas barking at each other. Lots of smack talk going on there. But the first thing we're going to talk about, Mr. Mason, only four players make the On3 top 100 list for 2026. Does that seem a little low to you?
Well, for a team that's consensus, let's just say top 12, right? I think that's a fair comment. That with all the post spring analysis done by everybody, OU homers, OU haters, people in the middle like Crane and Josh Pate, who I don't think really have any kind of skin in that game, right? Some people like that, and some of the bigger networks, they all have OU at 12 to somewhere from 9, 8 to 13, right? So I think top 12 is. I think you could say that OU, if you crunched it on a spreadsheet and came up, weighted everybody, evenly, OU would be a top 12 team, right? So it's hard for me to imagine OU being kind of a top 12 national team and only having four guys in the top 100.
It does a little bit. I mean, obviously Jayden Jackson being a freshman All-American 2 years ago, playing every game, starting every game. I think that he's been tremendously underrated since he got, since he was a recruit. Peyton Bowen, I think that he's a five-star talent when he came in. He proved that beyond a reasonable doubt this past season. So I don't know why you would, it would be any different now. I think Peyton definitely belongs in that. You could make an argument for some other guys, but we're going to bring in now the third part of the Sooner Intel crew. Okay, Kchris Griffin from the Horns Down podcast. What up, my guy?
What's up, yo? What's up? What's up? What's up?
Just talking about this On3 top 100 list. Four players on the list so far. Do you feel like that's a little light?
A tad bit. I think it's kind of a prove it year for a bunch of guys, honestly. I think you kind of, I mean, if you're asking me, I think all eyes, no pun intended, Texas fans, but I think all eyes are kind of pointed towards Livingston, right? Can he live up to the billing? I think that he's a guy that could potentially be kind of a real safety valve for a guy like Mateer. I think once they can get some chemistry and get on the same page, they could do some damage. I think Trell Harris showed last year that he's a top receiver as well. I'll be interested with that group because if those guys don't get it done, I think it's some youngsters on that squad that can get it done. I think in particular, I think Manny Choice is who I'm looking at right now.
Yep.
Sear Rogers could be somebody who bursts on the scene. Obviously, we all love ET. It's just got to happen. It's got to carry over from all that he's been doing now to actual games, right? So
Yep.
I think it's just one of those things where you have those guys, but I think also. I do think it's light, Jason. If you don't mind, I'll go to the unless you guys have already talked about it, but the tight end room. I think somebody's gonna pop there. I think Rocky Beers could end up on a lot of lists. I think Hansen as well. I think Hansen is gonna be one of those guys where you're just like, hey, that's a draft pick. That's a guy right there who gets in there, gets it done, can catch, can do things. Because we were there at the game, Jason, and we talked about more of the bigger concepts, and we talked about Beers a lot, but Hansen can catch the ball. And Chris Mason's been alluding to that fact this entire offseason thus far. So it's one of those things where he can actually catch the ball. So it'll be interesting to see if one of those guys pops. Defensively, I'm interested to see what you guys think because I kind of feel like it's just one of those things where I think we got some dudes on that squad that should be.
I think there's a bunch of them on the defensive side, but before we go to that side,
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, I've been harder on John Mateer than anybody else, but if Oklahoma is going to be where we think they're going to be at the end of the year, he's going to have to be one of the best players in the country, don't you think?
Yes, he has to be Heisman-like at the very least, Heisman-esque.
The Heisman winner is not just in the top 100. He'd be,
Yeah.
or even if a finalist, whatever. You'd have to be in the top 4.
Yeah.
So
I think a healthy Mateer, if we could get Mateer, if Mateer plays Heisman-like to where he is getting an invite, I think we're all happy towards the end of the season where we're ending up and where our feet will be at. It's just one of those things where we just kind of have to see. But Mateer. We could, I think we're going to talk about some running backs here in a little bit. I think that you could potentially see some of those guys burst on the scene. I think, Jason, the running game, I think it really fits every running back that we have now. I think it may be better for them. I think it may help too. Because just where our line last year with Young, still some attrition there with injuries and everything and stuff like that. I don't know if the scheme just kind of passed us by, as far as the let's be patient, wait behind the tackles, because it just, a lot of gang tackling, a lot of everything. Do not get me wrong. This wide zone is kind of the same as well if it becomes predictable, right? We've seen kind of, Missouri be predictable with it in certain instances, especially against us. Regardless, though, I think it lends itself to a decent running game. I think there's some guys this year that could be, could find themselves kind of being.
The thing about Missouri is that they haven't had a quarterback that could really stretch and when they did, when they had a good quarterback and really good receivers, they were successful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've had success. So, that they're going to run the football very well. Mr. Mason, it feels like the freshmen that you got coming in are expected to make a big jump. I know you talked about before the start of the show, obviously Torrey Blaylock and Xavier Robinson have been released to play. Brent Venables announcing that too. So what are your expectations on that part?
Well, I think the one name we haven't mentioned who I feel like postseason is going to be on top 100 lists, right? I mean, the only comment I really have is Taylor Wein is pretty low ranked for where he should be. If David Stone's number 20,
There was no drop off from R. Mason getting hurt.
I mean, Taylor Wein should be in like the 35 to 40 range, based upon
Agreed.
him being. I mean, it's him and Dylan Stewart as your preseason All SEC defensive ends, right? Those are the two guys that should be with Colin Simmons, Taylor Wein, and Dylan Stewart should be the three defensive ends on your first team SEC kind of ballot, right? So I think Taylor Wein's underranked, but the name that I was a little surprised didn't get a little love, but I think it's going to be postseason top 100. He's going to be there, it's going to be Michael Fasusi, right? He's going to be when we do this postseason, we see postseason lists like this, it's going to be Michael Fasusi. I think Peyton Bowen was a good guess. And I also, if you've been watching Twitter, you see Jayden Jackson's out in Cali working with an uncle who's like a defensive tackle, NFL prep guy, and he doesn't appear to be restricted at all. That shoulder looks fine based upon all the punching drills and arm drills he's doing with his uncle. So if Jayden Jackson is healthy, I think we all know he's a top 100 player in college football. I mean, Stone and Jackson and Wein are. I'm sorry, if they're all healthy and playing, that is three of the best players in college football are on our D line.
I would agree. That, and then I think that my expectation is that Danny Okoye is going to be one of the top 100 players in the country on that D line as well. I think that it's egregious that you didn't have Peyton Bowen on this list after the way that he played in the second half of the season. He was, all over the place, blocking, making
game-saving plays. He made game-saving plays.
PBUs and interceptions, man. And that interception that he had in the in the game against LSU, where he climbed the ladder after they threw that first interception and Mateer got him down, he climbed the ladder to get that interception right away. It's one of the best plays I've seen in a long time.
Does OU lose that game if he doesn't make that play and stop them?
Probably.
It's entirely possible. So I think Bowen is a good suggestion, and
absolutely.
And I think again another defensive back being overlooked. It's Cortland Guillory.
Yeah, absolutely.
If Cortland's going to start, he's going to play a lot. He has he's got an NFL frame at cornerback, and I think that's one of the,
and a nasty attitude too. Just the right attitude.
He does. He's got no memory. Moves on to the next play. That's one of the things I think is a little bit overlooked about us defensively when folks think we're going to drop off is they don't realize that Eli Bowen, healthy all offseason, which he wasn't last year. It wasn't until like the Bama game that he really got going because he had to sit out for like the first 5 or 6 games. Peyton Bowen, his first real healthy offseason, building off what he did, and Cortland Guillory going into his second year. Three of the 4 OU starters are in the secondary are poised for, I think, big second, third, and fourth years. I mean, that's the guys just get better in Brent's defense, and I think that's being overlooked a little bit. Same thing for David Stone, Taylor Wein. It's like, guys, the OU starters, they get better year over year on that defense. The more they're in it, the better they are. And I'll just throw one last name out, and maybe it's controversial in this, is Owen Heineke. If you got Kip Lewis in the top 100, why do you not have Owen Heineke? I mean, he was playing as well as Kip at the end of last year.
Shout out to Sooner in Texas. He chucked it in there just right a second ago. So yeah.
For Sooner in Texas. So I think, it's OU is poised to have possibly maybe a top 5 defense again in college football, and I just think, obviously Sategna is the one offensive player on there, and okay, from a certain perspective that makes sense, but I do think you've got defensive returners who are defensive guys who are returning starters who were ascending at the end of the year, and. Those would be the guys I would. Yeah, Okoye is. If by the it wouldn't shock me if Okoye's on a top 100 list at the end of the year. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I think he could be. It's gonna feel like he's been shot out of a cannon and onto the scene. I think,
think-
you know.
I think the interesting part, I was watching. y'all gonna get sick of me saying this, but y'all know I go back and watch all of the highlights and all the games, pretty much. You know, especially ramping up for everything. Hell, you know, I'm super geek. I forgot they were even meeting in Destin this week, but that got me pretty geeked up. Chris Mason can tell you that. I text him at like 5 a.m. that morning. But anywho, no, I went back and watched the South Carolina game and the Tennessee game. One thing I would say, man, is, you know, sometimes you get caught up in the game. Sometimes you get caught up in a lot of different things, and you kind of forget to just kind of take a second and actually see who the hell is actually on the field. Man, there was a lot of guys that were making plays and a lot of guys that were beating. Now, it didn't necessarily show up, but it's the fact that you're handling your assignment, you're handling your job, so you're doing what you need to do. But man, when you get over there with I'm like, what's going on? But anyway, when you go and watch that Tennessee game and go watch that rep, go watch that sack that Danny got, right? It was interesting because I don't know if you guys saw it throughout the season, but they didn't do too much of that where they had kind of that, you know, everybody's always labels it something different, but most coaches would have called it in the past with a NASCAR package or whatever. So essentially you have, you know, across the line, guys are standing up, and you've seen it with like Ethan Downs, guys like that in the system, but never with a guy right there like Danny, right? So Danny was able to get that sack, just really busting through, violent hands, everything, swiping down, got the sack. And so I was just like, I want to see more of that, right? I think that at least from
It feels like they've been holding him back, just holding him to, you know, as much as they could, because they obviously, you know, you got PJ there, but you had some guys that you felt like could contribute, but he's been biting at the bit since he was a true freshman. I think this kid is going to explode onto the scene this year.
What I was going to say, Jason, is just simple fact is that I think they're still he's still a bit immature. I think they still has some stuff because he is flash and dash. Do not get me wrong. But when I watched him out there at the spring game, I think the way he carries himself, the way he holds himself accountable and all the rest of that stuff, he's making plays all over the field. And what's crazy is that he's bigger, he's stronger, and he's faster than what he was a year ago when you saw him at that spring game. And I think for him, I think the confidence is there and all the tools were there. And another thing, it didn't look like he was taking off any plays. I think it's going to be really interesting this year because obviously there's two sides of the coin. One, Taylor Wein has to establish himself as the guy, right? Because I think that's where we're all looking at him as, right? But if he does take on any double teams or whatever, I don't necessarily know if I'm coming into the season asking myself like I was last year, who's that second guy, right? Who's the third man? Who's that? I think that we have a solid rotation at defensive end, and I think that a guy like Okoye could get very busy on that other side. I think he's going to be a problem just with the athleticism. And then when PJ comes in there and being hard-nosed, being disciplined, all the rest of that stuff, who knows? This could be the year for him to kind of have a breakout season as well. So it's going to be interesting. But I just feel like, man, Okoye could burst on the scene this year and have a really, really solid year, man.
Well, and you see college football 27 being released here. Thanks, 47 straight. Thanks for coming in. 90-plus player ratings got released. OU has 3 of them: David Stone, Isaiah Sategna, and Eli Bowen. I think if you don't have Peyton as a above 90 guy, I think they're missing, and I think that they missed on Wein. I think that they certainly missed. I think they certainly missed with Jayden Jackson.
They might be like in the 89s or something like that, just right.
I haven't seen it. You're right. They could be. They could be. But at the end of the day, I think that, again, if you're missing, I can't understand why you wouldn't have Peyton Bowen on this list after the way that he played throughout the. I mean, he made a game-saving pass breakup against Alabama on the road. I mean, winning that game there was huge. You know, him being able to shut that down on Ryan Williams.
The Tennessee interception.
Yes,
We're turning breaking on that ball and then running it back and putting OU into field goal position. One of the many Sandell field goals off his interception. Again, it's if you asked me postseason top 100, who's on this list from OU? And
so what I was fixing to ask, how many? We've got 4 now. If at the end of the year, how many guys do you feel like would be on it? Name some guys that you feel like will be on it.
I think OU gets to 6. I think you have another defender. I think you have Michael Fasusi. I'll go 7, and I think John Mateer's on the list. I think he rebounds. If everything else is that we're seeing, pans out, rising tide lifts all boats, and the rising tide on the OU offense about running the ball, better O-line play. I mean, tight end play that is just incalculably better than last year.
Which could lead to one of those guys being in the top 100. I would tell you that I think that I don't know why Trell Harris isn't there now. Probably when you start thinking about what he's done in his career already, and him coming into this situation. If they play well, if they do the things that we're expecting, and like we just talked about, I would think that John Mateer would be in it. I would agree with you about the defensive guys that could be in it. We talked about Danny Okoye. I would add Michael Boganowski and maybe Reggie Powers as well. We're talking about guys that have kind of been they're guys that have kind of ramped up their amount of play time over the last year. They got to play even as true freshmen. Neither one of them were redshirt guys, but I'll go back to Kchris on this one because he's the one that's really talked up Bo as much as anybody. This is a guy that towards the end of the year was playing a lot, instead of RSJ at times.
Well, and it was it Nagy at the Caravan who said, name an impact guy, and I think he said Boganowski, right?
Quickly. And I mean, we're talking about a guy that he can wreck shop. I mean, this is a guy that can put a player out of the game pretty quickly. And I'm not saying that that's something you really want to do, but I mean, a big hit like that, you'll end up getting receivers and even tight ends that don't want the football anymore.
I see what's funny is that I think that the more he played last year and the more that you saw him kind of in the system, the more that he kind of got away from kind of the bam bam and kind of was able to show you like, hey, I'm a complete player, right? That's
absolutely
evolution. Hang on to that word right there. I think that just the continuity that you had there. Now I know I'm going there to a guy that's not here right now, but it kind of felt like the script had flipped a little bit, and Hardy was kind of that bam bam guy, just always making these bang bang type of plays, right? But with him, I thought that he had a really good understanding of what was supposed to go on with that defense, especially with some of the offenses that you were seeing on the back end. It never felt like it dipped whenever he came into the game with Boganowski. But to me, I think Boganowski, the way that I saw him play and the way that he understands his defense, blitzing, doing different things like that, I think that he's actually an evolution of what you had in RSJ. I think RSJ is way better than a 7th round pick. I know I listened to a lot of guys, even some of the Steelers guys, that was like,
no doubt about that.
Yeah, this is a 4th grade guy. It was like if he'd have came out last year in last year's draft, the previous draft, it was like, yeah, it's like this is a guy that we had like in the top 100 players. So it's like this is a steal, right?
But yeah, it is a steal for him too because that's a perfect place for a guy like RSJ.
Yeah. But with Boganowski, I think Boganowski is a guy that I think it's just kind of that next step, that next evolution. He's a guy that I could see kind of playing that position, kind of like a, how should I say this, a bigger, stronger, taller Delarian Turner-Yell, if you will. Somebody who can come down, downhill, give great run support, be stout in the run game. And then also on top of that, the reason why I say it's the evolution of him and RSJ is because I don't think his eyes are getting caught in the back of the field. I think he's going to play assignment sound football, be very fundamental, and when he has a chance to hit you, he's going to hit you. But at the same time, just kind of watching him in some of those games and just some of those younger guys that were thrown in there at the safety spot, they had a really good understanding of what this defense or what the scheme was asking. especially during those times when they got a lot of reps in critical moments. So
Sure.
that's what you're really excited about with a guy like
Well,
Bowen.
that's where you kind of go back to even, going all the way back for the last couple of years. And, his dad talked about him, telling him to soak up these guys that are veteran dudes, make sure that you're paying big time attention. You know, he's done that. I think he's been impressive since the start. We've all heard, the stuff that Teddy said about him, but I think that, and the same goes for Reggie Powers. I think that he's the reason, obviously, that Kendall Doby, who as great as he was before the injury, it feels like Reggie kind of made him expendable when it came to that, right?
Great word.
And just being able to play the way that he did, and so we all love Kendall Doby, but and we wish him the best. I think he's a fantastic pickup for Mississippi State, but Reggie Powers kind of took that spot and made it his over the last year. Some of these guys that nobody's really talking about. I think Eli Bowen, obviously as sticky as he is, but Cortland, again, I think that's a great call, what you just said, Mr. Mason, about him. Cortland he's got that body type. He's got that attitude. He's not scared to be on the island, and he plays with 100% fire. He's coming, he's going to bring it to you. Get play after play after play, even when he, like you said, he's got a really short memory about getting beat or whatever, too. It's exciting to think about what they've got on defense. I would go back to the offense again, though. These big boys at tight end, it feels like they're going to be huge for the maturation of this offense if it becomes what we want it to become.
Well, the thing about Hayden Hansen is, and I'll continue with saying this until someone can prove me otherwise, he's the best blocking tight end in college football. He's 6'7", he's 270. He buried Colin Simmons last year in the Texas game. He was the entire reason that Florida ran on Texas and their offense was effective that day. They basically what he did that day was it flipped everything Texas wanted to do defensively. And now he's in Norman. He's got a real tight end coach in Jason Witten, who he just raves about. I mean, Kchris will tell you that he watched some film on Hansen. He was wide open. I mean, I remember Gabe and Teddy talking about him when he came in the portal. They go, I don't know why the quarterback won't throw him the ball. He's just wide open all the time. I think we're fairly clear that Mateer will do a better job than DJ Lagway, who I don't know what he was doing last year, but I think there's a good chance that if Hayden Hansen if our run game is successful, right, Hayden Hansen's going to be one of the key reasons why, right? And if he adds 300-400 yards and receptions onto that as well, I don't understand how he's not your first or second team tight end, one of the first or second team tight ends in the SEC. Obviously, the LSU kid, Green, is a NFL prospect, and he's just kind of a freak at tight end. But after that, I think Hayden Hansen's your best blocking tight end in the conference. And Witten and this offense are going to get him the ball more than Florida did. And because OU wants to be able to run the ball but not tip off what they're doing with personnel. And I think Hansen could be a beneficiary of that, just like, Rocky Beers could also be a big beneficiary of all that. But I agree there. The one name that we haven't talked about, and he just looks so freaking good. Is Cole Sullivan. I mean, he looks so good in spring. Obviously, the linebacker room it's going to be tough for him to have as big an impact with Owen coming back. But, we're going to play a lot of teams that are going to want to do big personnel, 12 personnel against us. And I think we're going to see the three linebackers out there together quite a bit against some of those teams. Michigan, Georgia, just right off the bat.
No, I definitely I agree with you on that. I think it'll be interesting to definitely see how we use Cole Sullivan in his defense. And I think that the interesting part is just, obviously Cheetah is going to be a big thing. So I think that, do we see kind of that last year of the do we see kind of that last year of the what am I trying to say, like the Big 12, right? The reason why I'm bringing that up is because when McCullough was out there kind of playing that cheetah position, you kind of caught him dead in the water a couple of times, right? There was times where he was just flat-footed, right? I think that the closer he got to the line of scrimmage, the better he was. But I just think that it was a couple of times where he couldn't necessarily make it translate at that level, right? To be able to stick with some of those slots. But great player, great talent. Obviously, we love McCullough. So with that being said, I wonder if teams are going to kind of gravitate back to that, thinking that they can find mismatches there at that cheetah spot with Sullivan. But I mean, if you go watch the Michigan film, I mean, at least from the highlights and stuff that we saw, and then you watch the breakdown and you saw in the weeds about him, you're just like, he plays good in space, and he's highly instinctive too. I was like, he's not a guy that I'm
better
saying,
in coverage than
Yeah.
Kobe or Omasigo, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a fair statement, right? He's better in coverage than either of those guys.
I think with Kip, obviously Kip is great all around, in my opinion. I think the thing with Kip sometimes it's just those zones kind of get him because they always sneak a guy right there behind him. But there's alleyways and different things like that. He's kind of paying attention to the line, seeing what's going on with the quarterback or whatever. And then here they go. They kind of just sneak a guy right there for like a little dig or so, or a little slant, right? So, I mean, it's just things like that. I think that he's improved, but he's a guy to me, Cole Sullivan, I think he's probably the most instinctual when it comes to that. I think that he'll actually be okay in those positions. He's a guy, I don't necessarily know if he's Kendall Daniels like yet, to where they can switch him off to playing safety, because going back and watching some stuff, some of the games, and just kind of some, those bits and pieces where you get to see some of the all-22 film. That's why I said you guys that match Porter's name, because I was like, whoa, I didn't realize Kendall Daniels was playing safety at times, like serious safety, right? So it's just another thing. But again, we don't even really know what this defense is going to look like with Cole Sullivan back there, because Venables may know something that we don't know, and that may end up coming up. So I'm interested to see.
Yeah, and Reggie Parrish, we mentioned Reggie. Well, just, in terms of a postseason 100, if Reggie plays the majority of the cheetah reps, right, I mean, he could have a Roy Williams kind of season. I mean, that's completely possible. I mean,
Absolutely.
Pass interceptions, sacks, tackles for loss, big plays left and right. I mean, the cheetah spot kind of it's kind of a big play spot.
Another big
right?
hitter. Another big hitter. Yeah.
Like Roy himself. So if Reggie has that kind of hybrid season where he's just making the plays, he's the scheme guy that Brent makes you try, and you got to try and account for him all over the place, and offenses just can't, and he's getting sacks, he's getting blitz sacks, he's forcing fumbles, he's tackles for loss, he's dropping into coverage, and quarterbacks are losing him, and he's picking passes off because we know he has the DB coverage. Coverage. He's got that DB coverage.
Well, and talking to his dad, he played a lot of cheetah when he was in high school too. This is not a new position for him.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a highlight position in the Brent defense, right? It's one of those star positions, right? It's like it's like the Petrie kid from Baylor the season that one he had at Baylor when they went to the Big 12 championship, right? And you heard Jim Nagy talking about the Petrie kid, and in terms of that he thought Nico Jandro could be like the Petrie kid, and my ears popped when I heard that, because the Petrie
That's pretty
kid,
wild. That's a big comparison to make to a true freshman that's never played.
But I mean, that just shows you, because we all remember that Petrie guy on Baylor. He was effing everywhere that year. I mean, he blew up our offense with Caleb Williams that day. We couldn't do a damn thing, and he was a big. I mean, he was the counter to whatever Lincoln was doing that day. I think in Waco, when we lost to Baylor in that year. So I think
they couldn't move the ball on that Baylor team for the last 6 quarters that Lincoln was
Yeah.
the coach of that football team.
Yeah.
Against Baylor.
I mean, so so he had his number there. So that's an interesting guy when you're thinking about postseason. And again, I just think, most people are just, most analysts are just taking the easy way out. The national guys are just taking the easy numbers out. But they just, I would have thought maybe at this point they would have realized that.
I think it points to
Brent underclassmen, that second to third year transition, which is a whole bunch of guys we're talking about. That's a huge leap in production over the last 2 seasons from the Brent defense. Our third year,
and I think
our third year guys are second year. They're flashing a little bit, but third year they're dudes.
Well, I think that points to what I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, and we talked about it on a couple of the recordings that we did. That I think that Oklahoma is underrated. It's a great place to be if you're OU, because you don't have a lot of people that are like thinking. I mean, their odds are plus 3,500 to win it. It's not very high up there. They're way down actually, and that we're talking about if Mateer is healthy, and I think it's going to take that and him playing a lot better football than what he did a year ago. But I think he will play a lot better football than he did a year ago if you're doing the things and the offensive line is as advertised and we're getting the kind of blocking that we're expecting out of these other dudes. I think that this goes to show you just how kind of overlooked OU is anyway. I think as a team, and I don't think that any of these guys probably care about whether they're in that top 100 list today or not. I think at the end of the year, if you could make some All-American teams, and because you've pushed this team to a SEC championship game and back into a deep run in the playoff, that's where it'll really matter. And I think a lot of these guys are going to make names for themselves this season, but I think it points to just a lack of knowledge, I think, about what this roster really is, all the way around.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, Chris, is there any other name you think that we're maybe overlooking? I just don't. I know you guys saw the spring game. I know Nagy's been talking up Jake Michaela quite a bit. I don't know if I'll just say this: if somehow Jake Michaela is in the discussion for the top 100 and has had like an all SEC center year, book the playoffs. That's a silly prediction from me, but if he's like a top 100 all SEC center, I don't know how OU's not in the playoffs.
Yeah, hell, if we're gonna go that far, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. The O line, I think there's a guy or two on that O line who can definitely show. I think they're a Fasusi, a Foje, a EPL. I think guys like them are really chomping at the bit right now.
Marion Harris too. I mean, this guy's played a lot of football in the SEC and is now being coached by the best offensive line coach in the country. I don't, we've heard all the rave reviews about Jake Michaela. And that's huge as well. Listen, I think that there's a lot of things that can go the right way. I'm not ready to give the Heisman to John Mateer yet, Unc, not just yet. But I think that John Mateer it is. If Oklahoma's going to go where we want him to go, he has to be that guy. He has to be. He has to control the tempo of the game. He has to make the right decisions, and he has to lead this football team.
And he could be more of a complimentary season from him, right? If we're running the ball better, right? And
complimentary season is going to be really good for him.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It doesn't have to be 4,000 yards, right? It doesn't have to be a Sam Bradford, Jason White.
But it needs to be 30 touchdown passes, probably.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It needs to be more efficient, right? And and he needs to have a running game that complements it, right? That we have running backs that are making plays, that are getting the offensive line's getting yards, that we're getting more of those 15 to 20 yard runs. It doesn't have to always be the home run, right? It just has to be more second and 2, second and 3,
deliberate and moving the sticks, right? And keeping your defense off the field some. That's going to help he can help the defense be even higher rated by running the offense, efficiently.
Yeah. So I think one other thing is Nagy has been mentioning. I've seen it in several interviews. He's saying Marion Harris is a top three round draft pick. He goes, that guy's better than we thought. He's had a great spring. He goes, that guy's a top three round draft pick. And I'm like, okay, all right, well that's interesting from Nagy. And again, until he's proven wrong, I'm going to take Nagy's evaluations at face value.
With Nagy, I think the interesting part. I was going to send this to you today, Chris Mason, but I not to deviate from what we're talking about, but when we're talking about Nagy, kind of just how we talked earlier, Jason, about how it feels like when Nagy joined forces with BV, what you would call the intrigue of OU went back to, hey, the prestige is back, right? Like OU is like, hey, we could talk about it. I think it's interesting because Nagy is getting the NFL intangible guys, right? The guys that have the prototype, the body, the height, the everything, all the rest of that stuff that matches to production.
The ones that look the part.
Yes, I think BV is like, hey, I'll do that as well, but I'm also not afraid to go get a 6'1" freak athlete that I can put on the D line that may not be your typical 6'6", 6'5" guy, but he gets it done at a very high chip, right? He's the guy that says, hey, I'm going to go get a freak that can play in his defense and can be very versatile to where I can drop him back on pillbacks, different things like that, and go crazy. And I think when you match that up with what Nagy's doing, I think it's one of those things where it's like it's a good marriage. It's a good unit, right? So it's really interesting. But guys, I think there are a bunch of guys on this team that one of the things that excites me about this squad here is a simple fact that I think it's some guys that are kind of, how should I say this? I think it's some guys that are playing for like some first through fourth round grades in the NFL going forward. Hell, I would start with Hayden Hansen, kind of wherever the sky's the limit. I think for a guy like that, 6'7", has all the intangibles, all the rest of the stuff. So I mean, it's kind of on him to go out there and do what he needs to do. I think the blocking is fine, but can he show that, hey, I can be healthy, I can also catch, I can do everything that you want a tight end to do, an NFL tight end. And
the NFL's in love with 12 formation, right? I mean,
exactly.
We saw the guy from A&M get drafted at tight end, like I think the third round, and he had like under 200 yards receiving. Last season, the guy with the Uber German sounding last name, I don't remember off the top of his head, but he was from Nebraska and he went to A&M and he had like barely 200 yards receiving, but he was like a third round pick. So I think Hayden's a better blocker than him, and I think you're right, Kchris. If Hayden can put up 300-400 yards receiving, plus NFL guys will see him blocking, right? They will see that inline ability, and they'll be like, that's the second.
I think they've already seen that, that's one of the things that
he could have gone. He could have gone to the draft.
The high top guys have talked about him as unbelievable blocker. They don't think he can catch very well, but we heard what has been kind of being said from Jason Witten about him, that he didn't know what they were doing with him out there, but he's got him ready to. He thinks he's going to be an All-American.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely. I think there's definitely guys on our roster, especially the guys I'm looking for are the third year guys, right? Like Okoye, obviously Stone and Jackson, right? Those are the guys. And Reggie and Boganowski, two other third year guys. We've got a bunch of third year guys that are just, especially on defense, that it may be time for them to shine. And we saw it last year. We were wondering what we were going to do at cornerback. That worked out fine. What are we doing at safety? Well, we're just, what are we going to do at Cheetah? Well, it's Reggie and Bogo's time, and everything from spring said that they were looking pretty damn good at the position. So I think if the number of top 100 guys are going to tell us how our season went, right? It's going to be a simple formula, right? If Mateer is somewhere in the top 75, we've had a good year. If we've got 7 or 8 guys in there, we've had the kind of season we all hoped and think OU's going to have.
I agree.
Without a doubt. I think so. And I think That's where, as I said, I think that they're overlooking a lot of the guys on this roster that have given them, the higher floors, higher ceilings, right? And we think that every year it feels like that's where this defense especially has gone, is to higher floor players with higher ceilings as well, and just they're already better players than what you had, right? It's continued to just kind of you've seen that evolution in Norman so far. Let's get over here to let's move on from this. If you don't have anybody else that you want to add to it, um, this is good stuff. This is just good fun, stuff.
We're
Steve,
95 days from football.
95 days from football, and
13.
Steve Sarkisian's comment at the Touchdown Club in Houston about a fellow Texas team in another conference that is playing a schedule that his 2s and 3s could go undefeated in. It was a strength of schedule shot, but Tech took it personally. Texas Tech took it personally. Now Cody Campbell publicly pushed Texas to schedule the game after Sark's job. He's offering to buy out. He's offering to buy out Texas State and Abilene Christian for them to play a game, so that they can play the game. And he wants Texas in week 1. If you're going to talk like that, maybe you should back it up. But should Sark have? Do you believe that Sark should have said this? Number one, I don't disagree with him first and foremost, but is this something that he's going to end up having to walk back and then they look stupid for not taking this up on it? And what are your feelings about this stuff? Because I'm getting a kick out of it myself.
Well, Sark's obviously feeling a little rowdy with his comments about Ole Miss and everything else. So, Sark's obviously feeling like he's, maybe he's in his last year and he's just going all out, or I don't know what. But to me, if I was Sark, and I'd say, okay, fine, let's play the damn game. I've got a better team than you up and down my roster. I'm going to put a beating on you, and then I'm officially going to put the Big 12 champion, if they are going to be, if Tech is still going to be the Big 12 champion even without their quarterback, and who knows what's up with that. But if you could somehow minimize the Big 12 week 1 and take out Tech, Tech's replacing a lot of folks. Almost their entire defense, their front 7, they're relying on a lot of different pieces. They're not ready for probably Texas's talent level week 1. So if I was Sark, I'd be like, Del Conte won't do this, obviously, but if I was Sark, I'd keep going and say, of course we'll play you. Of course we'll go after you. Yeah, bring it on. If I'm Sark, bring it on. So, but he won't.
There's little to gain for Texas, and there's a lot to lose.
If they didn't have the Ohio State game, I think maybe the gamesmanship would be a little better. But yeah, you feel like you got screwed last year by playing Ohio State, even though it was the Florida loss that kept you out of the playoffs. So you feel like you got screwed last year. So Del Conte's not gonna let him do this. But it would be for college football, it would be awesome though, wouldn't it? Just like a Texas death match, for sort of wrestling motif, here, loser leaves town kind of thing. It would be, get Jim Ross in to announce it. It's a slobber knocker, the humanity. So it's sad that they can't make this work, because from just the making college football better standpoint, it would be awesome to see.
You can do it. Whatchamacallit did it during COVID, right?
They threw games
why
together.
You had to figure out somebody to play. But no, I think it's funny because it's just a gamble for everybody right now. If you wink,
for
you know
Tech,
what I'm saying. But
Tech, if you lose this and then you lose another game, you're out of the playoffs.
You had to throw that gamble in there, huh?
Oh no!
Yeah, I was like, Chris, hold on now.
No.
I said, it's a gamble either way. I just
It's
I
a
don't know.
gamble either way, and it's a lot to lose for Texas. I think it's a lot to lose for Texas, not and nothing to gain. Here's the thing: what do you gain by beating up on Texas Tech? Because Neilio just said it in here in the chat, and I'm gonna repeat it. I don't think they're worth the shit.
Hey, let me hold on real quick. Jason, I gotta cut in here. I talked to my uncle the other day about this, and I told him because he was saying the same thing you guys were saying. It's just like that's not gonna happen. I said I know, but it's the humor. You gotta have some fun with it because I was like,
Oh, I
Texas,
think it's fantastic.
Tex-
Listen, if I'm Texas, I do it just for the simple fact that I think of what I think about Tech. But here's the deal: I think this is a fantastic move by Cody Campbell. Fantastic.
Oh
hold
yeah, I
on.
mean, yeah, it is. It
Hold
is.
on, guys. Hold on. Again, let me finish this because I'm
All
going
right,
somewhere
all
with
right.
this. Texas fans are in the comments. This is where it really gets good. Screw all the other stuff, all right? This is where it really gets good. Texas fans are in the comments, and I think Ben G can attest to this. And if Bevo's bodyguard is in here, they are calling Texas Tech everything except for what the good Lord named them. In these comments, it is everything. I mean, I've seen some of the wildest stuff that I can't repeat on here. I'll be in jail. They've talked about everything that Texas Tech has, owns, or ever will be, and I said this is crazy. And I just was like, this is wild. I was like, I gotta see this somehow. I gotta see this. But Jason, to your point, I don't know what's going on right now. Sark has made a lot of comments this offseason, and I'm just like,
That's the next thing I was going to bring up. I think that Steve Sarkisian is pre-excusing them missing the playoff, man.
hey, I'm not gonna do that tonight. I will.
I am. I'll do it. I don't care.
No,
I will
look,
do it
look,
because if you go back and you look at their schedule,
yeah.
listen, man, it's easy to sit here and just be a hater because we're Oklahoma fans. But the truth is the truth is the truth. They play LSU. They play Ole Miss. They play Ohio State. They play us. They play A&M. They're playing a tough schedule. They're playing in upstart Florida again. Listen, this is not an easy schedule. They've got Alabama on the schedule this year as well. Listen, if you can't see the possibility of losing, especially for a team that seems to not always get up for the games that they need to, and gets close to losing games
They're gonna go to
or
Rocky.
does lose games. They also have Tennessee, who I think we're kind of we may be kind of discounting them because we don't know what's going to be their quarterback situation. But I think that Josh has done a fantastic job, and you got to go on the road to Tennessee. If you can't see 3 to 4 losses and then missing the playoff, then you're just drinking the Kool-Aid because they very well could. And I think that he knows that, and that's why he's saying it. Look, it's a strength of schedule comment that he made, and he specifically didn't say Texas Tech because he didn't want this to turn into what it has. Now it has turned into what it has because everybody knew who he was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's fast. This is a more difficult schedule than they had last year, and they stumbled and lost 3 games last year, right? And and we know they should have lost to Kentucky, and they should have lost that
And Mississippi State as well. Yeah.
They should have lost both of those games. So it's fascinating. So yeah, I mean, it'd be nice it would be great if we could get a Texas grudge match to start the season week 1. Cody Campbell basically is, he's putting all his chips in the middle saying, I'm calling your bluff, guys. Because I know Del Conte won't let you do this. That, this isn't going to happen. But yeah,
He wouldn't let them play a night game last year. You think he's going in the shoe? He wouldn't let them play a night game the last year. He blamed it on Church, and I was like, hey, Church is going to be there with you or without you, sir. I was like, might as well go ahead and do it.
But it is funny that, I mean, not to go too far adrift, but, poor Brent's in a neck brace, barely getting any attention and Destin because, it's all Pete Golding, it's Sark, it's Kiffin.
The question, the 2014 playoff, this and that.
It's all.
I don't know. But again, it's just a gamble for everybody. We'll get to that in a second. Yeah, I sent this to you, Jason. This is hilarious. I thought this was funny.
Well, I teed this up, right? You can hear Jim Ross saying it. Wait, Texas Tech is entering the field with the suitcase.
And then cash it in. It's
Where's,
just
where's Ohio State? They never made the plane. Texas Tech is here. Yeah, people just,
That would be ridiculous.
make it a neutral site game. Play at Jerry's World.
And I think that's what it'll have to be because I heard Joey McGuire talking about it, and he said they can come to Lubbock or we can figure something else out. They're not going to Austin, you know that. But I think that he would definitely do Jerry World or something like that. But I don't think that helps you if you're Texas Tech. If you don't play these guys in Lubbock and get it as wild as it could possibly be in there, I don't think you have a chance. But I don't really think they'd have a chance anyway.
Well, it's not a Romanian soccer game, so it's hard to know what the odds of this are going to be. So but yeah, it's been a fascinating topic that just sort of you thought it would stick around for like a day or two, right? And it just keeps doubling up the egos. When you add Sark's ego, Texas's ego, and then Cody Campbell's checkbook and ego, which are probably about the same size. It's hysterical.
How much of it do you think is an excuse, though, the pre-made excuse for not making the playoff for the second year and losing and not making the playoff in the 2 years that you have Arch Manning playing quarterback for you?
Well, I definitely think he's trying to set the last year we heard it right that Texas was 9-3, but they beat Oklahoma. They should be in over Oklahoma because they beat Oklahoma. They've got that. We heard that head-to-head nonsense, right? And no one was really giving a lot of credence. But Jason, you have that top 12, which I thought was fascinating. The only thing I asked you about was obviously the Group of 5 team. But I think your top 12 is right on target. I mean, there's a very good chance that there is a 9-3 SEC team that has both the good losses and good wins to have an argument over anybody but the Big 12 champion, the ACC champion, and the Group of 5 and Notre Dame. And Notre Dame.
The Group of 5, the Group of 5, it's a one team, and I mean, right now that's always going to be there, right?
Right. But there's going to be a 10-2. There's going to be a 9-3 Big Ten team and a 9-3 SEC team potentially that are going to be arguing for the last at-large bid, the true at-large bid, right? Because if you think about it, the ACC's got a spot, Big 12's got a spot. If Notre Dame doesn't take advantage of this season, then Marcus Freeman's got some explaining to do, and then the Group of 5 team. So it's like, but there's going to be like 9-3 Ole Miss versus like 9-3. Maybe it's Indiana, maybe it's Oregon or something like that, and it's going to be which team, obviously Oregon will have the power win over OSU and over the mean Cowboys in Stillwater, as their calling card. So, so you never know how that's going to shake out. But I just think Sark's trying to prep the argument that, look, we could be 9-3 and be the number 8 team in the country with losses to Oklahoma, LSU, and Ohio State. And Ohio State could be the Big Ten champion again. We could have lost to them. We could have lost to Oklahoma, who's maybe like number 5 team, and we could have lost to LSU or A&M, and there's the 6 and 7 team.
Or Ole Miss or Tennessee.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they don't play Ole Miss, do they?
Yes, they do.
I'm looking at their schedule. I don't see that.
Texas?
Oh, no, you're right. So there's you're right. You are correct. You are correct, Jason. So he's setting up for the 9-3 debate, right? That if somehow Texas Tech doesn't win the Big 12 and has 2 losses, or some ACC team has 2, doesn't win the ACC and has 2 losses, you're correct. That he's setting it up to say that my 9-3 Texas team should be in this year versus some 10-2 team from another conference. He's setting that argument up because he knows he's going on the road more, and he's got tougher He's got to go to Tennessee. He's got to go to LSU, and he's got to go to A&M. And they don't win on the road. They don't. That's not a Texas hallmark so far. And they've been lucky. Well, Benji, it's nearly June. You gotta give us this. We're not gonna give you that game in May 29th. OU's beating Texas May 29th on an OU podcast. Okay, and that's just a fact. That's just facts as they go. But there's enough.
This is just the kind of game that OU would win too, or Texas would win on vice versa, like when Charlie Strong beat Baker and them that year.
But no reason.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no reason pulling that off. Or how many times have we seen it? But I mean, both teams, Texas, Texas and Oklahoma. Man, they are front loaded. There are stumbling blocks for two wounded animals.
Both of them.
Two wounded animals walking into Dallas in a must-win situation with everything on the line. And if you could make
No, I said it. I've said it twice over the last week that Oklahoma, I feel like they have to go 2-1 in those early 5 games those early 3 games that are on the schedule. You got to beat Michigan and you got to split between Georgia and Texas. You have to win one of those games and beat Michigan. If you don't, I think that I don't think that the hard to kill is going to matter. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be too much to overcome at the end of the day.
No, because you'll be too far behind. Because you're going to be too far behind 2 SEC teams. You've got to have.
I think even if you beat Michigan, but you lose both of the games, Georgia and Texas, it makes it hard to do that.
But yeah,
to go undefeated the rest of the way
with no bye weeks, and OU's got tough opponents too as well. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, I'm with you, but yeah, I think Kchris is right. There's no way his bad pun's right. If you're Del Conte, there's no way you can gamble on game 1 losing to Texas Tech and then having Ohio State come into town. You just can't. I mean, you can't. You've got to you need the Texas State blowout win. Knock the cobwebs off. Because game 1 stuff is wacky, right? When you play a real opponent game 1, things get weird. I mean, you drop games you're not supposed to. Look at OU losing that stupid game to Houston back in the day in 2016, right? We didn't have any business playing Houston at Houston. It's a stupid, the stadium wasn't quite ready yet. That was the stadium upgrade, and that's why we did that. And that game cost us because that OU 2016 team, if they had beaten Houston or played some cupcake and had only lost to Ohio State, is in the discussion for the playoff. That 2016 team that ended on that roll with that line with Mixon and Pirine and those guys and Bake and that defense that was playing well, that team cost itself a playoff spot because of that stupid Houston loss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why not have Texas Tech guys buy out the Ohio State game? They're not going to do that. And hell, the Big Ten and SEC wouldn't allow such a thing.
Fox isn't going to allow that. I mean, sorry.
No.
So ABC, ESPN is like we're not.
No way they would.
We gave up. We gave up the game in Columbus. We were promised
the two betting favorites to win the Natty. No.
That's. I mean, it's that game's gonna. We know where game day is going to be. It's not going to be in Ann Arbor. It's going to be in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we already know. We know that the OU Michigan game is going to get overshadowed by Texas, Ohio State the same weekend. We just know that. We know that from a national perspective. So.
Yeah, no doubt. It's everybody in the SEC's got a tough schedule. You're right about that, Scott Walker. But and at the end of the day, I think it was obvious that's what. When you look at this schedule, though, I mean, guys. Florida, Ole Miss. Even I've been saying I think Mississippi State's an upstart. They almost beat them last year. If they have any kind of defense, you could see them catching an L in one of these places that they don't expect. But at LSU, at Texas A&M, at Tennessee, they got Florida again. Of course, the Oklahoma game, and they got Ohio State on this schedule. There's no way that they end up taking this game. Let's move to the Texas Tech side of it, though. If you're if you're Cody Campbell and you're Tech, this is a good way to kind of take the focus off of the Brennan Sorsby debacle, because that's exactly what it is, and turn it into this. Now, I don't know that quarterback, that Will Hammond's going to be ready for this game, but there is this talk about a transfer, track and field transfer, coming from, was it UCLA?
Yeah, but he hasn't played.
He hasn't played, but they like who he... Right.
They moved him to wide receiver, so UCLA did. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, but if you're Tech and you don't think, and Will Hammond, you're concerned about Will Hammond, I don't know who their fourth string quarterback is. I mean, hell.
Well, they've got the kid from Tulsa that was pretty good last year too.
Okay.
You know, that's their other quarterback that they're looking at. I don't know.
But if you don't have Hammond for the first couple of games, right, and you have to start the Tulsa kid.
And then they also look. They do have another guy that was a true freshman last year, and that they really like.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember the kid's name, but he's a dual threat kind of guy. They seem to really like him. Obviously, he doesn't have a lot of experience, that kind of stuff, and a non-experienced guy is going to get eaten alive by that Texas front.
Well, if any of the programs in college football have to go like 4 deep at quarterback, I mean, you're just it's not going to work, right? I mean, if you don't have Sorsby, you don't have Hammond, and the Tulsa QB, I don't know, rolls an ankle accidentally, and you got to put in the guy who in February is your 4th team quarterback, right? If you got to play the 4th team quarterback for any team, that's going to be a guy who's not ready to play. I mean, that's just the reality of.
Unless you're playing in the Big 12. With that schedule that Tech is playing.
Yeah.
Because that schedule doesn't include K-State. It doesn't include BYU or Utah. They play Houston. That's the best team that they play on that schedule.
And they get them early.
Light, I guess.
You know, but we'll say it's. But you are right. You are, keeping this story in the front lines is keeping the Sorsby thing on the sideline. And, of course, but they got hit today with the ESPN got hold of the court documents and published more Sorsby stuff today that was just unreal in terms of what he was doing. Just like, seriously, dude, I don't know.
Was it what, 40 he placed 40 bets on Indiana during his time there?
Yeah, 90 grand total. He was gambling at Texas Tech he transferred from Cincinnati. So he was
90 grand total?
Yeah, he's gambled 90 grand total. He was transferring money to friends to illegally bet for him.
Oh no.
All kinds of, I mean, just like, okay, I'll make this one comment and I'll not get too moralizing about it, but the Tech stand on this is just crazy. I mean, I don't understand.
I played golf with a guy today that was a Tech fan, and they were like, he should play. And I was like, you're out of your fucking mind.
Well, if he's arguing about his mental health, how does his recovery, how does going back to playing football, which is tied to his gambling addiction, help his recovery from an addiction? You don't let folks who have drug dependency be pharmacists, and you don't. And if you're an alcoholic, you don't get to be a bartender.
Facts.
Hey, Chris Mason, you'll appreciate.
There's a lot. Every bartender's an alcoholic. What the hell are you talking about?
You'll appreciate this.
But you don't go through 12 steps, surrendering yourself to a higher power and taking responsibility for your actions. Doesn't seem to equate with what he's doing. So
no, I would liken it to, like, if I was in court and I had just to make a silly comment, right? Let's say it was a jury trial, right? I would look at the jury. I'd be like, anybody in here baseball fans? Pete Rose isn't in the Hall of Fame right now. I was like, I don't know what else to tell you. I was like, do we think that he's better?
Cardinal sin. Same with Shoeless Joe Jackson. These are two of the greatest players to ever play that game.
I just say, for him to place that many, I just think it's crazy that, I hear Feinbaum and others talk about how the NCAA, has partnered with gambling sites, and then it's just a part of it. So why doesn't he get a chance to benefit from it? And I was like, this is kind of different because I'm not going to sit here and act like Indiana was good while he was there or anything like that. I know they were kind of building into what they are now. And hell, I don't know if Cignetti was there when he was there, right? So I just feel like I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those things where on one side of the coin, I don't want to be hypocritical because of how much effort we kind of how much we talked about like Heineke, we talked about Chambliss and all the rest of that, and kind of different opinions. So I don't want to necessarily be a homer, but this is one where guys, I just don't know how I don't know how the NCAA loses this unless there's just something out there. I mean, there may be an outlier, but I just don't know because the arguments are not strong to me. The arguments they're really nonsensical as far as, hey, this guy, he should be able to benefit from this billion-dollar industry that they're doing him just like he is. He's making NIL money. He should not be able to gamble on games and then be able to say, yeah, I'm going to suit up and play for a whole season, because who's to say he doesn't do that at Texas Tech, I think another thing that you have to look at as well is that
if it's a real addiction, if it truly is an addiction, how could you believe that he wouldn't?
Well, not only that, but I think, again, you got to have to look at it from a 360 view as well. Literally, a few months ago, we were just in the heat of things with all these college basketball players being in cahoots with the mob. So, I mean, they're shaving points, they're doing all types of stuff and taking money on the side. So, I don't know. There's literally a federal investigation that's going on about that. So, you kind of have to figure that out as well. So, it's just, this one is one that really I just scratched my head on. I don't know how he comes back from this.
And to me, again, as I maybe
I think it's going to be hard for him to play in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, again, if he truly has an addiction and this is a mental health issue, and I totally buy all that, right? I'm taking him at face value that he hasn't just generated this as some sort of excuse. I don't understand how playing football helps with this when it appears to be his football. He hasn't been a collegiate athlete and not gambled. He gambled while he was redshirting, for crying out loud, and he's gambled every year since then. So there's clearly a correlation between his stress level being a college athlete and gambling, and he says he's used it as like a release valve for his anxiety. From a mental health standpoint, my wife's
think about the program and Joe Kane riding his motorcycle and shit like that. And
well, if we're gonna take his argument
walking the train tracks, go do that.
If we're gonna take his mental health argument seriously, that it's not just some puffed up excuse, right? If we're gonna take it seriously, how is this from your mental health? You shouldn't be playing for a year. You again, this is all of these recovery steps going back to the environment.
Forever you shouldn't play.
Well, I mean, exactly. Every
not in the college football for sure. I'm not saying that about the NFL. If he can get himself healthy in a good place like that, then do that. But
he can't do that in 3 months.
No.
I mean, he can't.
Not with $5 million and nothing to do in Lubbock.
Exactly, and we don't even know the illegal gambling. I mean, this is all the stuff that they've been able to get the books on the gambling sites. He's obviously gambling illegally because he's addicted to it and all this. I mean, he's betting on Romanian soccer and Turkish basketball and all kinds of crap. He's clearly addicted. So if he is, and I'm taking that at face value, his mental health. I mean, no one should be telling him to go play football. The recovery people should not be telling him to play football. There's a correlation here between this and this. You can't go back to the environment that made you an abuser. That's like recovery 101 for all addictions. It just is. So that's the part that kills me is, well, I'm addicted to this and it was causing me all this kind of stress. And, well, what's causing you stress? College football? Okay, so.
But here's the thing, like, in the NFL or anywhere else, you can be addicted to drugs or alcohol or whatever, but if you get busted on a drug test so many times,
look
at Josh Gordon.
You're done.
Look at Josh Gordon. His addiction problems didn't matter.
Well, look at the
It didn't matter that he had an addiction problem. They wanted him out.
The OSU wide receiver, right? The guy who won the back-to-back.
From Baylor.
No, not Josh Gordon, the OSU wide receiver who won the back-to-back Bolitnikovs. He drank his way out of the NFL.
Yeah, he did.
He just flat out did. I mean,
Blackman.
Yeah, Blackman. He's not on a. He was a complete bust because he couldn't.
Complete bust. Because
the alcohol. So that's the part that annoys me is that there are people out there. I don't doubt. I mean, I've had people tell me that they've had friends who've gambling addictions, online gambling stuff. It's bad. They've had friends. younger people get all wrapped up in this.
I lived in Vegas for 15 years, man. I've seen it from a lot of different forms.
So
every vice out there, every vice you can have is like highlighted for you in Vegas. It's not a place for everybody.
Right.
So it's, but you see that. You'll see that. Look, if that's what's going on here, then he certainly needs to get it fixed, and I feel bad for him. But you can't have him, for the sake of this sport, which is already in a bad place right now in a lot of ways. Money-wise, it's not. I don't think that we don't have to get into this conversation, but the 2014 playoff is bullshit. The idea of doing that is bullshit. But there's a lot of stupid things like that, the legislation that Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell came up with. Awful, terrible. But this kind of stuff would show you that it, like Nino said, completely broken.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm just a little offended that he's trying to say he has a mental health problem, and then but no, I can continue doing what led to my mental health problem. I mean, seriously. I mean, this is if you want to take this seriously, I mean, take it seriously, right? And we'll give you, and you should get all the help you need. And when you've had some time and you've been cleared, but you have a 4 or 5 year addiction to gambling. You're not getting rid of it in 35, in 6 weeks at some clinic. You need to be in a continual program, and it's clear it's connected to him playing collegiate sports. I mean, how can you not draw a correlation between the two? So
and this is the thing that thankfully that judge recused himself on that deal, but. The fact that somebody that Tech people were supporting, and like I said, great people that I played golf with today, but being, they're from Lubbock and they're Tech fans, and they were like, the ones that he needs to, I see them suspending him for a few games or whatever, but he should be able to play. And I was like, no way. I think that's crazy talk. I don't think he should ever play college football again.
This is one where, again, I hate to do it, but I kind of side with the NCAA, because I think with the other ones about eligibility, that is something that is interesting, because you kind of put yourself in inside such a, how to say it? No, you didn't box yourself in. You just kind of opened Pandora's box because of COVID. COVID is really the crucial element in all those things. But COVID, I think he was playing before NIL was really truly a thing. So, but still, D1 scholarship, all the rest of that stuff, that was not the norm. I don't necessarily know if there's enough case law, enough precedent, enough anything that could help his case with this. Because the simple fact is that you're just saying hey, not only did he bet on his team, but he bet on all of this stuff. And you can say, hey, I had an issue. It's all in my face, blah, blah, blah. But you're also saying, hey, look, it's just unpredictable. He's way too unpredictable, because who's not to say that he's not going to continue doing this in other sports? Get what I'm saying? I don't know. He becomes really tight with somebody or whatever. It leaks over. He comes tight with somebody on the baseball team or basketball team or whatever. And so he's betting on that stuff, right? I don't know. And
he's clearly got enablers around him.
Yeah,
he's able to find enablers.
I don't want to, put that on the kid. And if he plays, he plays. It is what it is. But it's just one of those things where I'm not necessarily sure, because I don't know of any. I mean, maybe I need to go and look, but it's easy to find stuff like we did for Heineke, right? That was kind of easy. I gave you guys the framework as far as hey, this is what his attorney should do, and they did that, and they executed, they killed that. Same thing with Chambliss, right? But this is a totally different ballpark, totally different area, because this has been an issue, not just in, now it's college football, right? But college basketball, the pros as well, football and basketball.
Look at Will Wade, what he's trying to do down at LSU. Holy shit.
And the
It's crazy.
And the NCAA's had a hard line on this. It's never moved. Again,
Yeah.
it's not like the eligibility thing, as Kchris said. The whole eligibility thing was once the NCAA said, well, we're ignoring the COVID year and giving everybody else an extra year of eligibility, that opened up the floodgates on the eligibility claims. It did.
Sure.
It was you've changed. You've now said the 4 or 5 thing isn't locked. Right? You've made an exception, so now you can make other exceptions. But the gambling thing, they've been hard on it the entire time. It's been very clear. He can't say he didn't know this rule. I didn't know this rule. You did. Everyone knew. You saw the Decker kid from Iowa State lose his eligibility and never play again. And the other thing is you've been illegally gambling. You weren't eligible. It's not like you're being penalized for a legal action. You weren't old enough to gamble in these states. You had to get co-conspirators to help you illegally gamble. Ergo,
Right.
you've been breaking the
Listen
law.
to this. Yeah, it says there's a 4-page stipulation of facts filed by Sorsby's legal team ahead of Monday's temporary injunction hearing. And they also reveal other new details regarding the links the Texas Tech quarterback went to feed his self-admitted gambling addiction. It confirms he placed thousands of bets totaling at least $90,000 in impermissible wagers. Using multiple accounts with FanDuel, Hard Rock Bet, Prize Picks, and Underdog between 22 and 25 per ESPN. Became a habit for me to bet, he said. My betting became a compulsion, which made it virtually impossible to resist the constant notifications I received from betting apps. I lost complete control of my addiction. I now realize the apps controlled me and I didn't control them. Wow.
I completely
At
believe
least
all of that.
2,900 bets while at Indiana, totaling more than $30,000.
Case closed.
Bye, Felicia.
All right,
Yeah.
we're gonna call it a night because we killed this topic.
Yeah, this topic is wild. It's just wild, man. The fact that you would do that he's really trying to get an injunction still makes zero sense to me. Because you have a mental health problem and an addiction doesn't mean that you don't have to go by the rules.
Exactly. How are you going to fix your addiction if you don't take responsibility for your actions and face the consequences? It's like step 1. I mean, I hate saying that, but
This is a great point too. If he were to play, how could any betting service put any lines or odds on any game that he's in? They couldn't.
No.
They would not. They could not. Would not.
No, I mean, it's Tech's actions here are just. I would at least hope OU would at least drawn the line here. Somebody would have said, no, we're not supporting this. Good luck, son. Have fun in the NFL, but you're not playing here.
Right.
Just have have an ounce of integrity and ethics, and just say, no, you're not playing. You're not playing.
Stop helping him. Stop helping him try to get in.
Yeah, stop helping him try to just say, we understand that you want to play, but it's no, you're not playing here.
We'd love to have you play, but we can't do it. Yeah, you can't. If you're Texas Tech, you cannot do this.
No, I mean it's ridiculous. But anyway, so all right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and bounce. I think we're about to lose Kchris. So
Okay. Yeah, guys. Appreciate everybody coming in. Let us know if you made it this far. Thank you. Make sure you hit the like button on all 3 channels. Become a subscriber to our channels. We're all pushing milestones. We're getting close to milestones for all 3 of these channels. Make sure you get in there and become a member as soon as you can. Guys, appreciate everybody coming in. We will see you on Monday for definitely I'll be back on Monday for Rise and Shine College Football's Big Monday. And yeah. Make sure you hit the like button. Let us know what you think in the comments. If you didn't make the live stream, who should have been on that top 100 list or will be at the end of the year for Oklahoma? Should Texas play Texas Tech in week 1 and let that buyout happen? Let us know in the comments about that as well. And then you can get into the Sorsby stuff if you want to. At the end of the day, I don't think there's any chance in view of what we just saw. So anyway, no, I'm not over the milestone, buddy. Not yet. Not yet. Still waiting for that milestone. But guys, thanks a lot for everybody coming in. We'll see you all on the next one.